All right, so we're just finishing up Philippians chapter 1, 27 through 29. And this is Philippians 1. We've already covered this part. You can see the last video for that. But we know that Paul was sent the greeting in chapter 1. He said, thank you for their fellowship in the gospel from the first day until now. And then he also let them know that what's happened has furthered the gospel, and that he's in prison. But these things are working out. He's trusting God to be sovereign and in control. And then he's just finishing up here the famous verse of this chapter 1, for to me to live is Christ and to die is gain. And I remember talking to people in church yesterday and just encouraging them this. Look, when the goal is to magnify Christ, then it doesn't matter if I live or if I die. Because when I live, it's about Christ. And if I die, I win. It's gain. And so nobody wants to die. I get it. But at the same time, when we have the right perspective, there is a joy in suffering, which is what Philippians is all about. And so Paul just says in verse 27, listen, this is my prayer. Only let your lifestyle, your conversation, your manner of living become the gospel. Would it enhance the gospel? Would it look good on you? Man, that dress is very becoming. That tie is very becoming. The gospel, your life attached to the gospel of Jesus Christ is very becoming. It makes it look good. It makes it look right. It enhances it. And that's possible because Christ lives in us and we just simply walk by faith and rest in him. But our conversation, the way we behave ourselves, should enhance the gospel, so that even Paul just says, whether I come and see you or if I'm absent, that I would hear of your affairs. And this is the behavior that, and that's a great word for us to know, here's where he's getting at, that you stand fast with one spirit. There's that unity and fellowship and partnership in the gospel, having one mind that is striving together. And we're working together, we're laboring together. Now we understand this isn't an earned, deserved thing, that we already have all the grace we need from Jesus Christ, and because of Jesus Christ. But together we partner and we work out our salvation with fear and trembling. We walk by faith. And so, hey, we're making this effort together. We're sacrificing financially and prayerfully and getting together and worshiping and witnessing other people. We've seen the Philippians testimony. We'll see it throughout the book of Philippians. And then he says, striving together for what? Well, for the faith of the gospel. And I would just encourage us to remember in difficult times and challenging times, it's easy to kind of be thinking about our life, about us living, about our own. And it's real quick that we forget about magnifying Christ. That we forget that my life is supposed to be about Christ. And so we strive together for the faith of the gospel. Now we're not striving with each other and fighting, but together for the main thing, the gospel of Jesus Christ. And to not be terrified by the adversaries, because you're not being terrified. Your faith, your fearlessness, we've talked about this in the last few days, your response to trusting God is an evident token of judgment, where the enemies, and we got to be careful that we understand this. We're talking about the adversaries. We're not talking about the mission field. We're not talking about people who need Christ. We're talking about the devil. We're talking about the enemies of the cross, not people who are blinded, not people who don't understand, not people who God has sent us to reach. And I know those can cross over perhaps sometimes, but if we think, man, that's my enemy, he's my enemy, she's my enemy, this is more spiritual than it is personal. This is more demonic than it is people. I would like us to see that we turn too many people into our enemies too quickly when they're the actual ones that we're supposed to reach. But when we have an attitude that is not terrified, even in difficulty, even in prison, even in the face of death, when we say to die is gain, and we live that and believe that, and it exudes from our life. I'm not sure that in America yet we've had the context to even display this in many ways, not from an outside persecution standpoint, but like when someone has a health illness or issue, or there is a sudden death, or an accident, something like that. And we respond not in despair, but in trust and in faith and in hope in the resurrection. This God uses as an evident token of perdition or of judgment, that something's up. Now to us, this is our salvation. We know what this is about, that it comes from God. But for those who are unbelievers, God is doing something and speaking to their heart and revealing truth to them through our attitude of not being terrified, of having a confidence and a faith and a fearlessness. For unto you it is given. Look, this is part of it. If you're going to live for Christ, it is given to you on the behalf of Christ. Christ isn't here. We are the image bearers of Christ. We are the lights for Christ. Not only to believe on him. Hey, we like this part. I believe in Jesus. I believe he's there. But also, here it is, to suffer for his sake. Did you know that there's 100 ways that this can happen? And understanding that God uses the suffering, as we've already talked about when Paul said, he furthers the gospel through his bonds, or through his chains in prison. If Paul's trusting in that, whatever difficulty or challenge that you're going through today, just understand that it is given to you for the cause of Christ, for the furtherance of the gospel, for the partnership in the gospel, not just to believe, okay, not just the rosy parts, but also the thorny parts, to suffer for his sake. And you see, you have the same conflict, okay? You've got some challenges going on in your life, like you saw in me, and also, are in me right now. And so it's not just Paul that's going through all this, but it's the Philippians as well. They've seen it in Paul's past, they see it in Paul's present, but now they're going to experience it as well in their own life. And so just some simple encouragement that Paul gives at the close of chapter 1, to let our lifestyle become the gospel, to let it look good, enhance the gospel, like a final touch on an outfit that you'd put on to go to prom, or on a date night, or Sunday morning, in your Easter Sunday, and that brooch makes it look great, or that tie just really finishes it off, kind of thing. That's the idea, that our lifestyle, the way we live, would enhance, it would make the gospel attractive, and make people see the greatness of it. It wouldn't take away from it or distract from it. And we do this by being with one spirit, striving together for the faith of the gospel, and by having a confident faith, fearlessness. When our adversaries come, they are convicted and challenged. They know something's up, because that's not a normal behavior. For us, it's salvation. We know who's at work. God is at work. And we just remember this simple reminder that suffering is part of it, but that through the suffering there is joy in suffering, because we have Jesus in our lives, and in us his Spirit, because of Jesus. I'll put the of there for all you English folks. That's the end of chapter 1.